Welcome to part 2. From this point on, the videos will mostly cover story, as well as any other gameplay elements that I didn't cover. But for this video, we'll be covering chapters 2 through 9, aka the open world half of the game. So anyway, we take up on Cor's advice to find him in order to plan on what to do next. However, Cindy tells us he's already left for an outpost to the northwest, but before we go, we end up meeting Cid about Regis.
Reggie wasn't born yesterday. Lucius got dealt a losing hand and your old man played it the best he could. He saw this coming a mile away, and he wasn't gonna go down without a fight. In the end, though, well, it just wasn't enough. You need something else, you talk to Cor. I can't even remember the last time I saw Reggie. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Okay, subtle backstory drop. He used to be part of Regis's bro band. Care to guess how much they'll put focus on that? Anyway, Cid becomes a quest giver in which he can upgrade certain weapons you find whenever you give him the materials for it. It's pretty much how you get the Ultima weapon, which seems to come from upgrading the engine blade. Anyway, I found that most of the weapons I get later were more efficient than whatever I got from Cid, though it's hard to tell sometimes because no matter what you choose, you're going to run into the same problems with certain groups. Yeah, certain attacks do more damage as indicated by the color of the numbers, though given how the difficulty can spike, regardless of what level you are, it often feels like you can't prepare. Even with gear and food that has resistances, it ends up not mattering as much given how easy it is for the enemy to knock you down and drain you and your friends' health. So once you arrive, you meet someone who informs you that Iris is already heading to Lestallum, and Cor is in the royal tomb where he immediately tells us about how, as a future king, Noctis has the power to use the weapons of the kings of old for his own. Though Noctis just breaks down about why his father chose him over protecting the kingdom.
How long will you remain the protected? The king entrusted the role of protector to you.
Entrusted it to me? Then why didn't he tell me that? Why did he stand there smiling as I left? Why? Why did he lie to me?
That day, he didn't want you to remember him as the king. In what time you had left, he wanted to be your father. He always had faith in you, that when the time came, you would ascend for the sake of your people.
Guess he left me no choice.
And much like with his relationship with Luna, his relationship with his father has little focus throughout the game. And without seeing Brotherhood or Kingsglaive, you probably won't get the full feeling of the moment. At any rate, let's talk about the Royal Arms. On their own, each weapon is easily more powerful than most weapons you might already have or ever will obtain, and they each have their own ability that you can take advantage of to better suit your needs. However, they all share one major flaw. They drain your health the more you use them, so you need to always keep your health up during combat. Oh, and you can't perform link attacks with them, so best to only have one Royal Arm in your loadout for balance. Later, as you unlock more weapons, you gain access to the Armiger ability. When the blue bar around your weapon loadout becomes full, you can press L1 and R1 to go into a pseudo overlimit state where your attacks are unleashed in a flurry so long as you hold the appropriate buttons. And even when you run out of MP, I believe you can still Warp Strike in this state. You also get access to Armiger Chain, which allows all of your active party members to perform one final attack, though pressing the buttons on both occasions can be tricky if you keep getting hit or keep moving. And once Armiger is unlocked, you can improve it further in the Ascension menu. Anyway, Cor has the hunters hired on to find the tombs to help you get stronger, and there also happens to be one not too far off from here. He then decides to accompany you for a bit to measure your strength, And yeah, we have our first guest character. I'm rather stunned. I figured it'd just be the bro band, but we do get 3 more characters to join us, if not for a short time. They are all level and equip locked, but they have their own tech skills and link attacks. Plus they can't die, meaning they can fight forever with 1 HP. In Kor's case, he's level 52, so he can help us fight the Magitech army and their mecha. And given his samurai sword, I want to say he's like Nagi, a powerful military figure with deep ties to the ways of the samurai, though Nagi at least gets to have cool scenes like this.
Hold that thought.
Also, he was a permanently playable character after you got him. True, he and many other party members suffered from not being prominent like Elma and Lynn, who you had no choice but to take during the plot, but at least you get to learn about him, and given the non-self-contained nature of the story, you could see him receive more backstory in like sequels or whatever. But here, Kor is more like Sid, if not a combatant though, who won't get much screen time, even though early trailers made it look like he was more important than he actually is. Let me just say, these guest characters make you wish they were permanent. After getting you to the dungeon, he leaves you a key to unlock the other tombs with, while he goes to watch the Empire. Now about the dungeons. Well, at least we have them here. X only had 1 real dungeon, and these ones don't feel like hallways like in FF13. There is some elaboration to be had. It might not look so at first, but over time they start to show some complexity, and some puzzles are even presented, though they too tend to be filled with plenty of jump scares. Seriously, this game relies on them a lot, and while they can work at times, it gets tiresome toward the late parts of the game. It also looks like each dungeon has a boss near the end, though the spider one didn't seem like much of one given how quickly I took it down. Only my share play had caught it like it was supposed to. Anyway, new weapon! And Kor calls us asking to help take down a base the Empire is building. We meet that lady from before, and essentially we're splitting into groups. Me and Kor sneak around, while the rest of my friends distract out front. It does provide a nice solitary moment for the two to provide some banter.
It's a little easier with Kor around.
Don't get used to it. I'll be gone before you know it.
I'll enjoy it while I can.
Yes, do enjoy it while you can, because this is the last time you get to play with him. Once we break the front gate, we're confronted by this guy.
Stay right where you are. Well, well, if it isn't Kor the Immortal. So, you survived the Citadel, but you won't survive what I have in store for you. It's past time your legend came to an end.
Yeah, he's pretty much that first boss you fight in Star Fox 64. He's so unimportant that despite having a name, he has no real bearing on the plot. He even gives a generic death speech.
To the Empire!
Hell yeah!
Impeccable.
Although what's funny is that he somehow survived that explosion. Only he doesn't return for the plot, but rather for a side quest later in the game. But you never see him outside the mech after this, though. So with that, Kor will continue doing whatever he feels like doing while you drive on through. As we enter Chapter 3, we get shown to some of the villains, including Emperor Idolus and High Commander Ravis.
She could unlock many secrets. Nay, High Commander, Lord Ravis, the Imperial Army is now at your disposal.
And this must be Versdale, who I remember was also in the trailers. I wonder how he'll tie into things.
My men and I will continue our search for the Prince and the Oracle.
So glorious. My crystal.
Don't get why you wanted that. But anyway, our first time into the sky, and yeah, looks more lively than the desert region. Though my point still remains that it doesn't have quite enough to make it feel like a fantasy region and not some backfield of some country. At the outpost, Prompto wants to go visit the Chocobo Ranch before meeting Iris, and I would recommend doing so as well, since there's a monster hunt there that you need to do anyway in order to get Chocobos. You'll need them especially in a couple chapters from now, and actually this quest is neat because it's the Deadeye hunt from the Sky demo. I did it at night myself, and it had a good atmosphere, a steady pace, for the most part, and some really nice moments before the eventual fight.
Deadeye. The name says it all.
It's the only other quest I remember fondly in this game, which leads to something I want to say about them as a whole. In this game, they don't feel very memorable or important enough to really go out and do all of. They feel like most quests in World of Warcraft, where they only exist just to get your character stronger until later on, where you might see quests with story to them. While they introduce characters here, it's hard to feel attached to them since they don't really have much development, if at all. They don't affect you or the world in any way, it just feels like a random chore you find that gets you rewarded. But in repetition, it can be grating at times. Now the same can be said about other open world games, like in the Witcher series, Bethesda RPGs, and yes, even Xenoblade X. Though for me, I remember liking the quests in X to the point where I did as many as possible, because they had interesting stories to tell. Hell, from what I can remember from not having played in over a year, I remember having to find these glasses belonging to Tatsu's father, only to find that they were the Kamiya glasses. I once rescued some bug aliens who reproduce by drinking this water that splits them in two, and it even led to the creation of their first female. Built a water plant to bring clean water to the city, only for the workers to get attacked by monsters that plant eggs in their bodies to produce even more monsters. So we create sentry bots to stop this, only for those to go haywire. I took care of some diamond smugglers who needed a set of keys to open the safe that was lodged somewhere. I helped a Manon solve a murder mystery involving the Pizza Man after he snapped from losing his wife. I fought some samurai warrior cats and got them on my side. Helped two possibly lesbian cat girls get back together when one of them went out for revenge. Reprogram a machine god to become a petulant child. Recruit a Moltar-looking alien race into my city. Helped a strange scientist build a DeLorean so he can go back to the future. Yes, that happens, only to find out he can't because the planet is actually... Whoa! Getting ahead of myself. But you get the idea. I found the quests in X to be filled with all sorts of interesting stories and characters, and depending on what happens can affect what other characters do or how the world worked. It felt like whatever it is you did meant something. It wasn't just fluff like the ones in this game. And okay, you probably might not think that and be thinking opposite of me on my opinion, and that's fine. I think open world quest content can be subjective, and I just feel like the ones in X had more meaning to go out and do them over just doing them solely for the reward and not the world building. Oh, and before I forget, Chocobo travel is the best mode of transport you could ask for. By going to these rental stations and paying 50 gil per day to use them, you get a whistle that you use to call one over, and when you get on, so does everyone else somehow. But anyway, it's far faster than your normal run speed, and so is their sprint. They can glide in the air, and even swim through the water, as for some reason Noctis and friends can't swim. They can't even traverse through shallow water, but the birds can. The only things they can't do are pick up items or talk to people. Items I get, but people? Really? Still, if fast travel were tied to Noctis and not the car, I'd trade that clunker in for the bird, because at least I can feel like I'm flying at the speed of sound and go anywhere, unlike the car that sticks to the road and feels boring to drive. We soon make it to Lestallum, and while it looks big, there's not much to find and hardly any NPCs to speak to besides the vendors and quest givers. As we approach the hotel, Noctis gets a visit from some strange being, but anyway, time to meet Iris and her family servant, Jared. and his grandson Talcott. She tells us what happened inside the city while saying that Luna was in town earlier, meaning she's alive. The next morning, she asks us to go take a walk with her and... she's a guest character? Well, holy crap! We do have female party members! They weren't erased due to Western interest after all! Well, you don't get to use her here until a few chapters later. But even so, I'm stunned. Most people were disappointed that they only had the main cast be men, instead of a mixed cast like in any other JRPG out there. While I myself was one of them, I do get that if they want to tell the story like this, they can. It just means less potential story opportunities or characters to relate to. As for Iris, well, it seems clear that she has a thing for you, and while it's possible to trigger something where you get her flowers, she doesn't have too much screen time in this game, like everyone else. Anyway, Talcott tells us about a royal tomb possibly being behind a waterfall, so we set out for it. After getting it, which unlocks the Armiger ability, we get another vision that seems to indicate we need to go to the large meteor that's outside the city. Once we check in with the others, we look at the outlook and guess who?
What a coincidence. I'm not so sure it is.
Aren't nursery rhymes curious things? From the deep, the Archean calls. Yet on deaf ears the god's tongue falls. The king made to kneel, in pain he crawls.
So how do we keep him on his feet?
You need only heed the call.
So he knows we have to see Titan, and he is willing to take us to him. Totally not suspicious! This leads to chapter 4, where we have to drive closely behind him, or else it's game over. Seems rather silly if you ask me, and really, we know where to go. Why do I need his help to get to the large rock just sticking out of the surface of the earth? We end up stopping at an outpost, and I assumed we were in a hurry to proceed, so I didn't bother exploring. But if you check the radio, you overhear a recording from Luna's ascension as the Oracle, which makes her out to be like Yuna from FF10. Even the cutscene is very Yuna-like.
Blessed stars of life and light, deliver us from darkness blight. That is all I can do for now, but trust that relief will come in a matter of days.
And yet, it would leave even more of an impact on me if we could have her with us and maybe interact with us extensively. Otherwise, it's just more characterization on a foundation that doesn't exist to us. We soon reach the site, which is blocked by a large gate that I guess we couldn't force our way through. We drive a bit and there's a tomb here. Whatever, we get the weapon and Titan wakes up.
What the...
Seems we woke the big guy up.
He's trying to tell me something. But what?
Now the build-up to the fight is actually really good. There's danger at every curve, there's fire you have to avoid, monsters to fight. If there's one thing they do really well is cinematography. As for the fight itself, it looks cool. But it's still a little off like in that E3 demo. You're mostly just parrying his massive punches until you can attack them. Your friends can't do anything to him but dodge, and the Imperial soldiers get in the way of actually fighting him well. It definitely needed more polish, but otherwise the finisher is really good.
It's over!
And then we learn that it was Luna who awoke him, and we'll learn why later. But for now, we get a key item from Titan, and we need rescuing.
Fancy meeting you here! It occurs to me I never formally introduced myself. Izunia! Arden Izunia!
Yeah, I'm sure everyone who saw Kingsglaive knows about you. Well, the bad news is that our car got stolen. Cindy is out looking for it, but the Empire is out and about, so we're stuck in Duscae for the time being. Umbra shows up to lead us to the lady that was with Luna earlier, Intiana.
By the Stormsender's blessing, will the path to the stone be opened? The Oracle
goes hence in her king's name.
Luna, where is she now?
The eye of the storm. When the covenant is forged, the oracle and ring shall await their king at the walls of water. Stray not from the path.
She's a messenger. A spirit. Faithful to the oracle.
So I guess we need to go find the next Astral, as they're called, starting with Ramuh. But first, another flashback that explains a bit about how the crystal needed to be guarded by the Lucian kings, like Regis, but also how Noctis is the one chosen by the crystal to be the true king, and, well, just listen.
To crown the King of Light is the calling of the crystal, and keeping the crystal safe until that day falls to the line of Lucis.
And I'm the chosen.
Yes, only the true king, anointed by the crystal, can purge our star of its scourge.
You really think I can do that?
As Oracle, I will see to it.
It's stuff we'll have a better understanding of later, but this adds only a little bit of character development since now we know Luna was destined to help you. But I still don't know where any romance between the two came from, and I'm still holding out for actual interaction in the current time. Otherwise, with the plan to have Iris set up a boat ride in Cape Kime, we set out to find the lightning bolts Ramuh drops, which even takes us into a dungeon.
For every lock, there exists a key.
Or like a magical key that can unlock any door, like from the video games.
Cute. Anyway, we beat up some giant Naga that accuses me of taking her child or something, and then we get Ramuh's mark. What do we do with them? Well, hold that thought, because Cindy found the car in an Imperial fort. We go track it down, and now we talk about base infiltration. They're like large stealth sections that have you sneaking past soldiers and or backstabbing them to kill them instantly, since there's some kind of generator making them stronger than before. Until you can take them out, you only have until morning to sneak about and complete your objective, though doing so means the mission shifts over to kill them all, which kinda makes the whole infiltration thing a waste since you're basically gonna take everyone out anyway. You're a 4-man army essentially. Could have gone with a full stealth mission, but whatever. We get to show off a summon here. Okay, summons in this game are really cool. You can only summon them on occasion, whenever you're in danger, but when you do, they do loads of damage, and it's just a stunning display of size and scale. Of course, with the exception of Ramuh and a later summon, both of whom can be summoned anywhere by the way. 2 of the summons require you to be in certain locations. Titan can only be called in open fields, while the other one can only be called where water is. Sad we can't choose which summon we can actually call upon, but given the power behind them, I don't blame them. Before we can escape, we're confronted by Ravis, who was on the radio earlier, but now wants a piece of us.
Heir to a crown befitting no other. Witness his splendor and glory. All hail the chosen king.
Awful high and mighty for an Imperial rat, serving the enemy to hunt down Luna.
I do not serve, I command! The king's sworn shield.
You better believe it.
A weak shield protects naught.
Oh snap! We gonna get an unwinnable boss fight?
Should the chosen fall, that too is fate.
I'd say that's far enough.
Nope. But hey, maybe next time. I mean, it's a JRPG. They tend to take a while to complete. I'm sure we'll get to fight them in a real fight. Right? We'd return to Lestallum where Iris was unable to go to Kime, and when they came here, they killed Jared. and I'm supposed to care for him. Hard to be on their level when I barely know him or Talcott. That night, the game feels the need to play the Omen trailer. No, seriously, it's the Omen trailer. And none of this really happens later, by the way. And
Actually, Jared's the one we ought to thank.
Yeah. He really thought of everything.
I don't recall him doing anything but get me a room. And wait, several days later? Well, damn, they're moving on without us. We take Iris with us on the way to the Cape, but we end up stopping at another base first to get some payback for Jared. All while we leave Iris behind in the car. Oh darn. This time we have to capture Caligo, the officer visiting the place, without getting caught, or else he'll run. What's interesting is that he was in a trailer where he was assaulting a captive Luna, but I guess he was demoted to unimportant, as after this he only appears alongside Loki outside the main plot. We do get to see this person again though, Aranea.
Hey, pretty boy. Let's see what you can do.
AKA the best Dragoon girl ever. Assuming Freya isn't more badass, but I need to play that game first. The fight itself is pretty cool, some good shots, and not too easy or difficult. She's the one human opponent I enjoyed fighting, and we really do get more of her. But first, we get to play with Iris. While traveling to the Cape, she joins as a guest character as sort of a monk-type fighter with Moogle dolls on occasion. Of course, you can only stop at places the game will allow, like this one dungeon that lets you go up to with chocobos. She gets a pink one, by the way. And she gets to join you in a campout. It only raises the question on why they couldn't make the guest characters more permanent, or more like in Tales of Destiny where you can choose which ones to keep with your main cast. My guess? They all wouldn't fit in the damn car. After reaching the Cape, you meet up with Cindy, who along with Sid, were fixing up the boat your father had. Sounds like we need to get something like Mithril, which is in some ruins north of here. So before we part with Iris, Gladios has something to say.
So, yeah. Gonna have to ask you to handle this boat business without me.
Say what?
Got some business of my own to deal with.
And that something is revealed never. Buy the season pass or wait till his character DLC comes out. We drive all the way to the Vesper Pool where we run into Arden again, who I guess knows we were coming for Mithril, but is willing to let us go into the ruins anyway. Since we're short one person, he has Aranea come with us, making her the last guest character. Now this is neat because like the others, she can get in on the photo ops that Prompto had. Plus, compared to Iris, she's really strong. She is somewhat of a mercenary, which is why she's willing to get paid to help us, and believe it or not, she's the only guest character to have more than 2 appearances. Pretty much after this chapter, anytime you are out and about, she'll rarely show up to help you out in a fight, and there's even a glitch to let you keep her for good. That's great, considering that anything else about her character is as limited as everyone else you meet. During this dungeon...
Look up! Oh, if that's the water's surface.
And it's the most fantasy-looking dungeon ever, and that's super good. She reveals that the Empire is experimenting with demons to make more weapons, as well as other things we learn about later on, and it's enough to make her want to leave the Empire. Once we beat the boss of this place, we get the Mithril and leave, with Aranea offering to take us to Lestalem, where one of Cindy's friends can handle the Mithril. When we get there though, trouble arises at the power plant, as imps got in and threatened to blow the whole thing up. There's already a hunter inside though, but only one more suit just for me. Well, I wonder who this mystery hunter is. Is he someone new? Someone that may actually be a future guest character? Oh, it's just Gladios. Yeah, no way to hide this one. Apparently, whatever he did, he got a scar to show for it. Once again, we won't ever know what happened unless the DLC explains it. With the Mithril ready, we return to the Cape to reconvene with most of our supporting cast to discuss what will happen before setting off, including some last-minute talk from Cor and Sid about Regis.
Sorry I wasn't there for your father. I swore an oath to protect the king, but I wasn't strong enough to uphold it.
Ain't nothing nobody could have done to stop what happened.
Yeah. I realize that.
But you need to realize just what you mean to the boys by your side.
I do.
Even if they can't solve your problems, you can't hide what's going on from them. It hurts like hell. Remember, those ain't your bodyguards. They're your brothers. Trust in them, always.
I've already said what needed to be said about them, and even now we still don't have the best grasp of their past, but the parallel they shared is really good. You're like the next generation of brothers, surpassing the old generation in your own way. Had they maybe shown a flashback of their old group or did more to showcase them, this would make for a really good moment. Otherwise, time to say goodbye to Cor, Iris, and Talcott, because you will probably never see them again outside of maybe one tiny scene next chapter, and then maybe a side quest. But otherwise, their time in the plot is pretty much up. Cid gets to drive you to Alticia, and this is arguably the part where the game becomes linear. However, I think that's saved for Chapter 10, and you'll see why. Before we set sail though, we see Rayvis and Arden are already there preparing to take on Leviathan when she shows up.
Arrives, but alas without the bride. Of course, we've come for the Hydrian, and you've gone to such lengths to prepare.
Merely my duty.
Ah, but for an outsider to lead the Imperial army must be a battle in and of itself. You've spoken to Lady Lunafreya?
No.
That obstinate secretary, standing in the way.
Keep this in mind, because Rayvis is still against us at this point, and even against his own sister. So on the boat ride, it's a long one. Surprised it's even in the same plane of existence as the main map, but holy crap does it take a long time. You can skip it at least, but then you'd miss the dialogue. Not that the camera angle is that good, you can't zoom in close enough to get a read on their faces, just body movement. It just seems more appropriate to have it be completely choreographed, and not like in some games where you can control the camera for your own dynamic effect. So now they bring up the ring and how relevant it is to Luna, while also going over Rayvis and his new arm. See, in Kingsglaive, he tried to use the ring for himself, but was rejected by it, which made him lose his arm. So we got it replaced, and it also seems he took my father's sword, but has yet to actually use it. But otherwise, he might have the power of the kings just like me. Another thing to note was that when Niflheim attacked, Regis was forced to run away with me and Luna, causing Rayvis to hate him for failing to save his home. These are things that are either glossed over in-game or thrown at you quickly without letting it sink in, especially when we only had one real encounter with him so far. But anyway, after Cid talks about how the ring was important to my family, as well revealing how he had a falling out with Regis before making up, he recommends that I meet someone named Wes, who is the last member of the old bro band, who can set us up a hotel room. Once we get to Alticia, the real enemy of this game emerges. The water effects! It's so awful! Once we make it in, you might notice the map of the city being relatively big. Well, guess what? This is all you get to explore. Yep, this small area, this small space, and the arena, which I didn't go to, but it's for monster fights. That's all you get from what's otherwise a large-ass city. I mean, look at all this. You don't even get to see most of this from where you walk. Yet they included it on the map anyway. The only reason it's there is for the DLC. But from what I hear, the Moogle Chocobo Festival is only a limited time. So you better play it now, because you will never get to explore this area again. Like Lestallum, there aren't any interactable NPCs besides vendors and quest givers. But now we have occasional clones, and sometimes busted AI. Besides 3 monster hunts that take place at night and foreshadow things to come, there's one quest I found that lets me go see Luna's wedding dress. It's more the same to make you think it counts as real character development. Besides that, Gintiana shows up telling me that Umbra can now take me back to visit old memories by visiting Annie Lodge, which is really more like the time travel mechanic from Radiant Historia, where you can go back in time and do old quests because you can't go back to Lucis in the current timeline. And then of course, regardless of what you do in either one, you retain any levels, gear, or gil you have. This is bizarre mainly because Noctis doesn't really question it or care. This power Umbra has never really gets explored, so it's just convenient for the player. Still, this opens up more quests for you to do back in Lucius, including one where you and all of your collected friends, have to find where these tremors are coming from, and they turn out to be from a Titanic-sized Adamantoise. Can't really fight it yet, so you just have to run. Back to the plot though. We meet Wes, who says we can meet with Camellia, first secretary for Accordo, and okay, what's up with you? Anyway, she says she's planning to surrender Luna to the Empire, but wishes to negotiate her safety with you first. So you visit her the next day, and this is the first and only time where the choice system appears to have some impact on story, as you have to negotiate with Camellia that you will protect her people in order to let Luna awaken Leviathan while the Empire makes their move. It's one time where Noctis showcases his skill as a prince and future king, but it also doesn't really matter because the plot will carry out as normal. Doing well just means more Ascension coins that you can use to purchase rare items later. But before the big speech, say goodbye to Wes because he's never gonna show up again, and then Camellia talks with Luna about what will happen, before disappearing until you hear her again on the radio much later.
Remember, you'll be under Imperial watch.
Right.
Think of it as a necessary evil in order to forge the Covenant. Once it's over, you may go as you please, but you do so without our protection.
So be it.
You'd better get going. Your public is waiting for you.
Oh, so she was a bad guy this whole time? What was the point of that then? So while your friends set up, you stand outside the crowd and hear in on Luna's big speech about not losing hope.
Dear friends, I stand before you today. With little hope, the words I speak shall reach beyond these walls. For slowly but surely, the light fades from our world, and as it does, the shadows shall loom ever longer until all succumbs to the darkness. Darkness that evokes terror, hatred, and sorrow in the hearts of men. The ashes of Lucis. A dream of peace, twisted into a nightmare of death and destruction, claiming innumerable lives and leaving myriad souls to suffer.
Luna.
Yet I beg you, do not surrender to despair. Have faith, for our gods watch over us. By their blessings, by the stars that light the heavens above, our world will be delivered from the perils of the dark.
Not a bad speech, and it is related to what is to come. But I see death flags coming, and I still feel like I don't really know her. So she goes to call Leviathan using what I think are one of the royal arms. When Leviathan shows up though, she's none too happy.
I do. I vow, the king will prove himself worthy.
Maybe this was a bad idea. Anyway, we gotta fight our way to the altar, and after that one cutscene, Ignis tells us that Prompto is coming to help, and he helps by riding on this lance that was attached to Leviathan. Also, for some reason, the water serpents count as battling, and we get a report card. Really? After enough QTEs, we get up to her, and unlike what I did, I would suggest demanding her power on all choices since it gets you AP. But either way, it's fight time. Now I had to re-record this fight because SharePlay didn't get it, but it's a two-phase fight with only this one part as being hard. You have to warp strike your way up so you can get close enough to warp strike Leviathan. Anyway, before phase 2, you get your butt kicked and Luna tries to save you.
Now, about that ring. On second thought, you let him have it.
Why? Why did you do that? Why would you want me to have the ring?
And do remind him about the crystal. Oh, Prince, your bride awaits!
I will pass the ring to the rightful king. When the prophecy is fulfilled, all enthralled to darkness shall know peace.
I have no idea what that was about. Anyway, Luna channels the power of the kings into Noctis, allowing him to access the power of Super Saiyan Blue and fight Leviathan head-on. Yeah! 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 And wait, does this look familiar? Anyway, as cool as this is, easily better than Titan, it's also ridiculously easy. She doesn't do nearly enough damage to you that you'd ever fall to danger. It's very easy to dodge stuff. Like, if anything, this is a scripted fight. And it goes on and on and on, and that water, so broken. Finally we win and Luna catches us, and while it looks like we got Leviathan's mark, Titan has to save us, I guess. And then dream sequence.
Do you remember the flowers of Tenebrae? It seems so long ago. You'll find they await you still, blooming from hill to vale. Will you be there?
Would that I could join you, but this moment will have to be enough.
So this pretty much is that Aerith moment they wanted to do. Only problem, we didn't get to interact with her in the game at all. We only saw flashbacks. We got some current scenes, but we didn't get to see them enough to really understand why they are so okay with this whole destiny thing they have. And what, was Noctis always having trouble growing up to become what everyone wanted? Is that why they start out as children? This is some weird imagery, and I have no clue how to process it. Somebody please tell me, what is going on? I seem to get the ring from her, and sure enough, I do when I wake up. And Ignis tells me that Luna's dead. Also, he got attacked and is now blind. Perhaps more DLC stuff? Either way, Noctis is sad now because Luna is dead, and all that's left is her book. With Luna dead, what will come of us now? Well, find out in part 3, where we hope to go over the rest, if not most of it.
SpaceMonkeyMafiaStudios.com.
What is it? So I can work longer. So I can earn more. So I can do more. So I can work more.
Always chasing rainbows.